Hello and welcome to this live taste challenge. We have two Canadian blended whiskeys with no age statement, and they are both 40% alcohol or 80 proof. The first one is from 1961, introduction date 1961, not this bottle design, I don't believe. Canadian Peak. And the focus is on the mountains of Western Canada. And there's a purple little box there. So it's a narrow and wide. It's wide in the front and narrow on the side, you see. And it's showing on the back the description. If you look through the glass, you can see the trees on the ground in front of the Rocky Mountain. All right. I don't know if that shows up here with all the glare. Canadian Peak. Aged, we don't know. At least 3 years. That's the law of Canada. We don't know for how long. Bottled by County Line Distillers, Louisville, Kentucky. Okay, well, there's no bottling plant in Louisville from these people. It's in Frankfort, Kentucky. The corporate office for Kentucky is in Louisville, they told me, or one of the corporate offices. It's or business offices, because it's not a corporation. It's a family-owned proprietorship. Anyway, Canadian Peak, owned by the Sazerac Company, produced in Montreal at the big Sazerac Distillery. And I bought this last year at Hocus Pocus Liquors on United States Highway 61 northbound in Prairieville, Louisiana. But I see that a lot of people have it online and around, so it's more common than you would think. And it runs about $16 a bottle. $16 a bottle. Real wooden cap in real cork. It's not a twist cap. It's not rubber. It's not pressed board. It's real cork. Dropped it. Okay. The competitor from 1975, James Foxe. Oh, and by the way, Sazerac did not introduce this. This was like Barton Distilling, and then, of course, Sazerac bought Barton Distilling in 2009, and that's how they got a hold of the brand. And they probably updated the bottle, make it fancy looking, so they could charge more money. Okay, that's fine. Now, we have James Foxe, nicknamed Jamie. James Foxe, with this embossed fox head on the label, some obscure Canadian 18th century government official. James Foxe Canadian blended whiskey with natural flavors. Introduced 1975 by the Seagram's Distilling Company. But Seagram's sold this to Sazerac in 1989. So Seagram's only had it for 14 years. And then when that company started to collapse, but it was a slow collapse, took 11 years, but they really more like 16 years, because I think in 84 is when things started to slip. But anyway, it's not really our problem. But Sazerac bought James Foxe from Seagram's and a whole bunch of other stuff. Okay, price. When I tell you the price, you're going to think I'm making it up. But I'm not. Okay, Ronnie S. says, God Save the King. I was just reading about that stuff before I came on. Well, I was reading about an hour and a half ago, watching videos about how what they like to portray is different than what really goes on. Like they like to, people say, oh, they're just a figurehead. They don't do anything. They just up on the throne looking the part. And then the article was about, oh, really? They're the largest landowners in the world, the royal family. And they own more land than any other people in the world. And how they, it's really interesting, I love that. But I had known all that already. The article didn't tell me anything new. I was just like, confirmation, because I had done my research just on my own and found out how wide-reaching their influence was, including into the United States Intelligence Service. And I knew that also going back to the 1920s. Okay, I'm sorry, Devon Hahn says, I'm drinking a light lager right now, Miller 64. Oh, yes. I see that coming into stores even now today. Maxwell says, hello, Ron. And hi, Ronnie S. And then Ronnie S. says, hello, Maxwell from the Russian Federation. Okay, so this is James Foxe. And I'm telling you, I bought this at Savannah discount, and it was $4.99. I'm not making that up. It was $4.99. True story. Crazy, right? Crazy, but true. Now, this is an unopened bottle. I'm thinking, do I have another bottle of this that I didn't finish somewhere? Let me go check, because I think I have another. I kept finding it so cheap. Yeah, I said that right. $4.99. I'm not joking. Ha ha ha. I knew it. I knew it. I knew it. I knew. I knew. I don't even know why I'm doing this one, because it's out of sequence. I wanted to do the Sazerac brands all in chronological order, but and then I forgot to do that, actually. Because the first one I did was Canadian Hunter, but that only goes back to 1984. This Northern Lights, the Northern Lights, goes what, to 1968? This is the one I should be doing. But it's too late now. I'll do that for Dawnbusters. That's the one with the like the little hologram type thing on it. It's not really a hologram, but it makes it look like a flame. See? Oh, you can see the Northern Lights on the label. The problem is I have so many, I can't remember what I've got. From what I heard, okay, Devon retracted a message. Too late for me and some of my stuff I've sent. From what I heard, the English royal family's wealth came from land holdings they acquired during the Empire years. Right. And then the Empire became the Commonwealth. And like the video was saying, I knew this already. They didn't actually change the law. No law changed. It just they thought it sounded better. Like around 100 years ago, really 105 years ago, they were saying Empire. It doesn't sound so nice these days, in these democratic days. So they started saying the Commonwealth, a big family of nations all working together like a team. And so over the years, from 1917 to 1970, around 50 years ago, they phased out the name Empire and they replaced it with the name Commonwealth. But it was funny how the guy was showing the map. He was like, here's the British Empire in 1920. And he was saying, here's the Commonwealth today. He was saying, it's very similar, isn't it? It's like the same map, with a few little exceptions, but like the same map. And then they were just showing all these like interesting things, how they still, they say, oh no, we don't have any power. And then the guy in the video was like, well, how did they get this law dropped? We didn't veto the law. They said, we never veto a law. We always approve it. But then they were showing how, they didn't have to veto it because behind the scenes, they were saying, oh, we don't like this bill. And so it never went to the floor for debate. All right. I was reading another story about how they had a past king, not the present king, but a past king. And he was saying he never vetoed a bill either, by the way. But there was this big big bill coming up, and it was a little bit controversy, and he never said, I'm going to veto it. He just let the word leak out, like his people put this message out to all the members of parliament, and it said, just to let you know, anyone who votes for this bill will not be considered the king's friend. Anyone who votes for this bill will not be considered the king's friend. So then it never got voted on. They didn't even have to vote. It's not that it failed; they didn't have a vote. So, oh well, no influence. Okay. Then they sold some of the real estate to the state, and in turn received an annual salary. Right. Well, they have these crown corporations. I have a National Geographic article. See all those yellow? That's magazines. I have an article from like 25 years ago showing how King Charles, well, back then it was Prince Charles. He owned like 1/3 of all the rental land in England, the rental property in England. And I was just reading an article today about how they own like 1/3 of the shoreline. Oh, well, I don't care. I don't live in a Commonwealth country. I live in the United States. We have our own empire problems. Now, you might say, didn't you just say earlier that the British government has a secret influence in the U.S. foreign policy and intelligence community? Oh, yeah, I did mention that. But let's not get ourselves nervous. Let's relax and pretend everything is A-okay. Oh, hell, I didn't pour the same amount. Well, I'm not adding more because I don't want to be all kagoo. One of them is darker and one of them is lighter. So like gold and a little more copper, but it's close. It's really not too different, but it is different, you see. Let's look at what they say on the website for these two Canadian whiskeys. There is no website, right? I said there's no website. Well, let's look what Total Wine says. And I'm going to write a review for it. There was a review. There's only one review for it on Total Wine and More, but it's from 3 years ago, so I'm not even going to read it. But it says, here's their description. Canada. It offers notes of caramel and spice with a smooth finish. It is a pretty good dram in this value Canadian. Now, I kept reading the same description like 5 different times, which is telling me it's coming from the distillery. No, there's no way it's 5 different times and it's a coincidence. It's a pretty good dram in this value Canadian. It's best to drink it straight or mix with your favorite cocktails. Enjoy. Now, I like how they say it is best to drink it straight or mixed. Now, how else are you going to drink it? So they're saying it's best to drink it, and the only 2 ways you could drink it. Great. Canadian Peak. From the rugged Canadian Rockies that span British Columbia and Alberta to the millions of lakes throughout the vast country, Canada has one of the most complex and diverse landscapes there is. That's very nice to know. Canadian Peak pays homage to the unique and robust environment of the Great White North. Taste and notes. Taste and notes. Complex mixture of berries, caramel, dark fruits, and oak. A touch of spicy rye makes a crisp and interesting finish. Well, I shouldn't have deleted the, well, I can get back on Total Wine looking at my history, but I was supposed to write the review. Well, I didn't notice it was that complex, but that's what they say. Jason says, good afternoon, go Seahawks. He's telling Rhonda, yes, why is Virginia considered a Commonwealth state? Well, it's just a name. They call it the Commonwealth of Virginia, Commonwealth of Kentucky. Commonwealth is just a word that means state. A state. Or a nation. It's the same thing. Not a nation, sorry. A nation is a group of people, like the British people, a nation, the British nation, the French nation, the German nation. When I was in Oklahoma in August last month. No, July, sorry, I got it confused. I was in Florida last month. And they had the Cherokee Nation. That's a group of people, the Cherokee Nation. But see, they don't have a state. It's just a nation, but no state. You say, well, that sounds like a tribe. Well, it is a tribe, basically. But that's just an old word for state. Instead of saying the state of Virginia, they say Commonwealth of Virginia. And then the British have the Commonwealth of Nations, which basically means like the state of different ethnic groups. You know what I'm saying? It's like a country of countries, so to speak, a country of countries. And they have their own meetings and their own sort of like constitution, not a constitution, but sort of like that, like a club, you know, like if you have a club like the Lions Club, they have the rules for the club. You know what I'm saying? Is there a difference between in-laws if the state is called a Commonwealth? No. Like I said, it's just two different words for the same thing. Like the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. But they could have called it the state of the Bahamas. But they call it the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. All right. They have the state of Israel. That's what Israel's called, the state of Israel. What if they would have called it the Commonwealth of Israel? It would have been fine because it means the same thing. Okay. It's just a one word is an older type, you know, like an old word for it. Oh, this smells like nut oil. You say pecans, walnuts? Yeah, something like that. Almonds? Yeah, something like that. I don't really know. I heard a rumor that Commonwealth states are more strict with laws, but I haven't seen any evidence to back that up, says Kevin Johnson. I never heard that. But it could be true. Since I've done no research and never heard that before, I wouldn't know. But I know in England, like the Queen could not get a driver's license because she didn't have to have a driver's license because she's the one that issues driver's license and she's not going to issue her license to herself because all the power to issue a license come from the crown. So if you are the power, you just drive where you want. You don't need a license from yourself or a passport. She traveled with no passport because passports were issued by her. Look at the passport. It says, Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth issues this passport. Well, you don't have to give yourself permission. All right. That's why Canada and England don't send ambassadors to each other. You know, the United States has an ambassador to France representing the U.S. government to the French government. Well, they don't have ambassadors from Canada to England because it would be like the king sending somebody to represent himself to himself. You know what I'm saying? Like, I, the king, send this man to represent me to myself, the king of Canada. It would be like oxymoronic. It wouldn't make any sense. It would like me taste challenging myself. Well, I know what I'm tasting because I'm doing it. Cheers from Helsinki, Finland. Oh, good. No, you're not the resurrection. Where did that come from? What kind of name is that? Can the queen get pulled over? No. She can't do nothing now. All right, but I know what you mean, the monarch. No, they can't even be arrested. They can't even be charged with a crime. Oh, well, I'm not worried about all that stuff. These both smell like corn, sweet corn, and nut oil. But one has more of a nut oil thing than the other. Now, James Foxe says with natural flavors. Canadian whiskey with natural flavors. Now, Canadian Peak doesn't say that, but there's only one little problem there. They don't have to disclose that. So you can make a Canadian whiskey and you can say it has natural flavors, or you can make one and you don't have to say it has natural flavors, even if it does. Just like United States, same thing. So it's sort of like they might have it, they might not. You got to guess. Now, if it says it, well, obviously it has it. Nice. Smells nice. Now, price, $16 versus $5. Okay, I know. $5 is not the normal price. $4.99 is not the normal price. The normal price is about Still cheap. Like if you find James Foxe, it'll probably be like $9. That's so cheap. Okay, so on aroma, I can't really tell. I really don't know. I honestly do not know. But let's go with the taste. Cheers. And I've been to Canada many times. I liked it. It's cold though. They smoke a lot up there. All right. Their coffee is good. They drink good coffee. Charred oak, forget about it. There's oak, wood, but not charred wood. Sweet corn, yes. Sugar, yes. Nutty, sugary, sugar-covered nut flavors. Oh, yes. Oh, definitely. Maybe there's a little bit more vanilla here, but I don't know. I don't know. Tell you what I do know. I paid $16 for one. I paid $5 for the other, both minus a penny. And I'm definitely not tasting a $7 difference. I'm sorry, an $11 difference. What am I saying? I'm tired. I've been up since real early this morning. I wanted to get up extra early so I could watch all the Major League Baseball highlights, which I did, and then all the NFL highlights, which I did. So it took me 2 hours. I was like, wore it out. Okay, $11 difference? No way. And you can find these. So this is not a video like, oh, well, nobody can find this. Because I do videos like that sometimes, some obscure beer that you know nobody can get, or some whiskey that most everybody can get. But these you can find. Now, I'm not saying you're going to be looking for it, but you can find it. Now, people might say, you anti-American because you always talk about how you prefer Canadian whiskey over bourbon. Okay, I'm not anti-American. I just prefer the flavor, okay? I don't mean, what do you want me to do? Lie and say, oh, yeah, because I'm proud to be, you know, where at least I could drink that I'm free, you know. Yeah, I'm going to gladly stand up next to you and choose it here today. No, bourbon's fine. But I got a lot of issues with bourbon because a lot of it tastes like popcorn. You know, when it gets burnt, like the kernels get burnt. And people are going to take it the wrong way. They always do. Some do. It's fine. You know, bourbon's fine. But I eat a lot of grits, and I know a lot about corn, and I know about charred oak, and it's just kind of like repetitive. People will tell me, oh, this bourbon here was $80. And I say, you paid $80 for that? Yeah. And then I taste it, and they're like, what do you think? And I say, it's good. You know, it's always good. But I don't say anything else like, it ain't no better than the $9 bourbon. I'm not going to say that to the person, insulting them, but I don't know. To me, the Canadian whiskey got more elaborate flavors. You say, but they cheat, they add flavor in. Yeah, well, I guess that makes it have more elaborate flavor. Oh, can the queen get pulled over? And even, what if she's drinking and driving? Then she can do what she wants. But I don't think she drank and drive. She was a drinker. She did like to drink gin, and she did like to drive. Even when she was real old, she would drive her own car. I don't mean in the city. I mean, like around her estate. I seen her driving that that Land Rover, or Range Rover probably. She admitted that she snuck out the palace with her sister during Victory in Europe Day, May 7th, 8th, 1945, and they went around the town with all the regular people hanging out, watching them all cheer, and nobody recognized them because they were just walking around. Is that a true story? Well, I mean, you would hate to think somebody would lie about that, but it seems possible, because who in the world would ever? But then it seems impossible, because how would the security let them do that? But then maybe the security is not as good as we think, because a man did sneak into the palace one time and was sitting on the queen's bed, some maniac, and she was like real nervous and was able to kind of contact security without him noticing. And they came, got the guy. He didn't hurt her. Oh, well, a lot of people lost their jobs after that. After a thing like this happens, you just know somebody's getting clipped. I mean, that's totally outrageous, a security breakdown to that level. Well, this is very sugary, very vanilla, very sweet, very confectionery, very much in some ways like cake frosting or icing, as some people like to call it. I'll say icing. Sometimes I say frosting. I like it. I think you could drink it neat. I am doing that. If you want to add ice, that's fine. If you want to mix it, fine. I don't know what benefit you would get from mixing it, or what. But then on the other hand, I don't know what you would lose from mixing it. So I don't do mixing. Anyway, I don't make cocktails. I don't make mixed drinks. I don't make highballs. So I don't know how that works. I only watch Tampa Bay and New Orleans highlights. Oh, yeah. Okay, well, I'm like a little bit more like demented about it. You see, Kevin Johnston said, "I prefer Canadian whiskeys much more than American whiskey." See, now I'm not alone. I'm not alone. Daniel Sanders says, "Evan Williams is competition for Seagram 7. I prefer Seagrams." Oh, well, that's kind of a little weird mix-up though, because Evan Williams is a straight bourbon. Seagram 7 is a blended whiskey, so they're not really comparable. Well, they're both in the United States, but so that's a little bit of it's like, it doesn't quite add together. All right, ryes are much better tasting to me than straight bourbon. Oh yeah, I'll take rye every day. Sorry, my nose is itching because of the hair on my nose. I'll take a rye. People say, how many times would you pick rye over bourbon? Oh, in my case, about 100% of the time. Mr. Yogi D says, you could add some whipped cream on top. You could add whipped cream on top. You could listen to the Beastie Boys, or you could listen to Cream. Okay. All right. Now we're making progress. This one has a little bit more sourness, kind of stereotypical North American whiskey thing going on, like the corn, the oak and the corn and the corn and the oak, kind of like Seagram 7. It must be then the Windsor. I got that coming up. Or I think I finished it. That must be the Canadian Peak. The Canadian Peak. I think the Canadian Peak has a more traditional Canadian whiskey flavor. And I think the James Foxe was one of those new age Canadian whiskeys from in the modern days, 1975, when they had the computers in 1975 and the cable television that some of the people had. So they wanted to make it more modern. And the catalytic converters. Yes. I'm going to say this is the Canadian Peak. Now, which one do I prefer? Hard to say. Hard to say. But let's look at it like this. If it's hard to say, then we got the winner. Because if you're going to pay $16 and then the other one is $5, but remember, that's not a normal price. Obviously, if it's hard to say, the $5 wins. So I'm going to say James Foxe wins. Is it a great whiskey? I don't know about that. I don't know about the great. Look at this huge bottle. It's a liter bottle. It's a liter bottle, and I paid, what did I pay for this at, where did I buy this? It was a liter bottle. It was like $6.99. You know, it's like, no, $7.99. So, I mean, it's ridiculous. It's so cheap. Liter bottle. Love the label, though. Classic label. I'm going to go watch Welcome Back, Kotter now. And then I bought the regular size bottle. I mean, you can see the difference in size. Look at that. Still cheap, like too cheap. No liquor should be this cheap. But it was. But I'm going to say this is the Windsor. I keep saying Windsor. I meant to say Canadian Peak, and it is Canadian Peak. Yeah. So what gave it away? Well, the James Foxe had a little bit more of that flavoring thing going on. But they're good flavors, so I like good flavors, so I like it. It's a winner. I like it. It wins. Is it literally a better flavor? No, it's probably not as good of a flavor in a technical sense, but the price difference is so large that it still wins. You see, the trade-off is beneficial to your pocketbook, and what you lose is so minuscule. It's in material, really. All right, you could add some. Have I given Ezra Brooks a try yet? It's a great rock. I've never tried any Ezra Brooks product except for the eggnog. The Ezra Brooks eggnog was on point. They were rocking and rolling with that. Now I've got the Ezra Brooks bourbon cream. I'm pretty sure it's going to be rocking and rolling. But I know it's pitiful. I need to try Ezra Brooks straight bourbon, the bottled and bond, the blended whiskey. I mean, enough's enough. Mr. Yogi said, I love Fleischmann's whiskey for the value. You got to add a couple of sugar cubes and chase it with Miller High Life. Okay. You need an appetizer like Vienna sausages and Crystal hot sauce, right? Yes, that's true. All right. Anyway, I've never had Fleischmann's whiskey. I know where to find Fleischmann's vodka. All right. Anyway, well, I don't need any appetizers with these type of products myself, but other people probably do. Yeah. So. James Foxe is the winner by virtue of the much lower price, although in a purely non-price consideration challenge, I guess the Canadian Peak would win, but it's so close that it's almost not even worth mentioning, but I guess it could win, perhaps. All right. So thanks for watching. So Canadian Peak is a good product. I do believe it's a good product. I would recommend it. And if you can find it for $16, go for it. If it's $20, yeah, you might want to pass on that because I've seen the handles, the big glass handle bottles for $25. So yeah, I wouldn't go too far. But yeah, $16 to $18, yeah, it's worth it. All right, thanks everybody.